Hey everybody, it's Jamie Casarda here, your holistic pet mentor, and had a lot of requests lately to discuss some options that we can do for our pets to help keep fleas and ticks off, and what can we do for heartworm prevention. So if we're not giving them an internal chew that acts as a pesticide, is there anything else that we can do for our pets to help protect them from heartworm disease? So I know some of you have been wondering about that. I hope that this helps. I'm going to give a general overview. Hi, Andy. Because there's so much information on it, but I want to keep it simple, right? I want to keep this something that you can watch and share and get the gist, right? It's like, so you know what's going on here. So a couple things I want to address today is we need to understand the life cycle of the heartworm before we make decisions about whether we need to give our dog a heartworm preventative every month, okay? And did you know, Andy, cats can get heartworm disease too, but we typically don't, treat them for that or prevent that for them because most of our cats that we're, taking care of on a regular basis are indoor cats. And most cats do not seem to have as big of a problem with it as our dogs for whatever reason. But let me teach you some things about heartworm. This is why I put the little nerdy emoji guy, because that's me today. I got out my reference guide, my reference book on heartworm disease and parasites. It's really fun to understand the life cycle, because when you understand the life cycle of parasites, it makes it that much easier to figure out how you're going to best handle your pet. Yeah, your vet mentioned it, but you really don't hear of or see of cats getting this. And let me tell you why. It is really difficult for all these wonderful factors to come into play for heartworm to even take hold, okay? And cats are such fastidious groomers that it's very difficult for the mosquitoes to really get in there and inject the different larvae and stuff. So, hi Annetta, how are you? Okay, so heartworm cycle, we're just going to talk about dogs, and I know that this pertains to you, Annetta. So, all right, canine heartworm. So it all starts with this lovely little thing here called the mosquito. So the mosquito has to bite a host. So the mosquito has to bite a host already that is infected with heartworm. And the dog has to have adult heartworm and be shedding the little babies, the microfilariae, into the bloodstream. Okay, so that means that this dog has has a male and a female worm in its body, and it's shedding the microfilariae into its bloodstream. And a mosquito has to bite that dog, okay? And then it has to go and bite another dog, all right? And when it does that, it will deposit the heartworm larvae into a saliva puddle into the bloodstream, okay? And so that's where the little larvae can get into the bloodstream. So that's where we need to stop the cycle right there, okay? So what I look at is, how can we stop this? How can we prevent this? And if this still happens, what can we do to make sure that our dog is as healthy as they can be? Because a lot of times it doesn't go much further, because as soon as that microfilariae is in there, if the dog has a robust immune system, can very well the immune system will take care of that microfilariae. So there has to be a lot of factors at play, and there has to be a lot of mosquitoes in the area, okay, that have this. That's why we see it more in the south. All right, so here we go. Now, let's say this happens, the microfilariae get in the bloodstream. It takes some time. They will develop into the tissues and migrate to the heart, where they mature to adult worms, okay? This process takes a while, okay? It takes months, all right? And then once they get into an adult worm, they infest in the right ventricle only, okay? Oh, and in the pulmonary artery. So it's pretty gross looking, right? So that we don't want that to happen. And then the fertilized adult female heartworms will release the microfilariae into the blood. So that means that the filariae that were injected into the pet in the first place have to be both male and female. Sometimes it's just female, and so it doesn't go any further. They die off on their own. All right, so then they say they are fertilized and the microfilariae get into the bloodstream. Now you have a dog that has it and can spread it via mosquitoes. Okay, this process for adult worms to get into the heart takes around 6 months. 6 months, okay? So typically, when we're treating for heartworm disease or we're preventing it, it's actually not a preventative when we give our dogs a monthly dose, okay? What that is, it's a pesticide, so we are assuming that it's a possibility that the dog got the microfilaria into the bloodstream, that it was bitten by a mosquito that bit another animal that had it and then injected it into your dog. Okay, so you would be giving a pesticide that kills after the fact. Okay, so what I suggest is that we prevent this whole mosquito problem, right? We want to reduce the amount of bites that your dog would actually get. And try to stop it there. So that would be a natural way, and we do that. We can do that with natural means. We can make our dog as healthy as possible by feeding a raw diet, a natural diet. We can reduce the amount of medications we're putting in and on their body. We can make sure that we have essential oils on them when they go outside that are repellent, right? We can also use apple cider vinegar to make their skin less tasty and tempting, right? So healthy dogs with the right pH, mosquitoes don't want to bite them. And you'll notice that if you see some dogs hanging together, you'll see that there'll be one dog that's more likely to have bugs flying around them. They're more attractive, they're sweeter, there's something up with the pH with their skin, right? So we want to do things that are going to make our dogs less tasty and less attractive to mosquitoes, right? Yeah, they are bad news, right? They're not our friends. So think about that first and foremost. What can we do to help our dog have great health? Now, some of us already have pets that are immune compromised, right? They already have problems going on, chronic problems. What do we do for them? That's where we can utilize our essential oils more frequently, make a spray bottle, and the recipe I like to use, I use a blend. It's called an outdoor blend, and it's called TerraShield. And in a 4-ounce spray bottle, I put 50 drops of TerraShield, 20 drops of lemongrass essential oil. Again, make sure you're using very pure oils. I do 20 drops of peppermint, and this is for dogs only. And then I also add about 10 drops of Arbor Vitae. I really love that oil as a repellent. Okay. Then I top it off with 3/4 distilled water and 1/4 of fractionated coconut oil. You can even add more fractionated coconut oil. It's just going to be a little more greasy if you do that, but it will stick to the fur a bit longer and it won't evaporate as quickly. So that's why I do that. But if you do all fractionated coconut oil, it can be a little greasy. Hi, Lisa. How are you? So that acts as a great repellent for all types of insects like fleas and ticks, and keep the mosquitoes and bugs off of your dog. Okay, so you want to do that anytime you're letting your dog outside. Now, when is this a concern? Mosquitoes, okay, if you're thinking specifically about how mosquitoes survive, for them to be able to do their life cycle, you have to have a consistent temperature outside for 24 hours a day for 2 weeks straight. That means morning and night. It has to be over 57 degrees. Did you guys know that? For mosquitoes to be able to reproduce, to be able to lay their larvae, it has to be over 57 degrees all day, all night for 2 weeks straight for them to be active. Okay, so in Pennsylvania, that's really rare. Okay, right now it is snowing. So we might have one day in the winter where it's over 57, right? So we'll have several months in a row where that just doesn't happen. And even in some summer months where it just doesn't happen, it stops that whole process. Okay. And so even if that happens inside an animal and they're outside for whatever reason, it's cold, it's going to be really hard for those larvae to develop. They become dormant. So isn't that interesting? That's why we don't see a lot of heartworm disease in the north. And that's because we have a lot of cold weather and it's difficult for the mosquitoes to really take hold. Now, when we do have, not Celsius. You're right, Joanne. Now, we do have mosquitoes. That's not uncommon. It's usually in late summer. And so what we do when you look at the holistic or a natural approach to yes, no, Joanne. When we look at the holistic approach, we are looking at, okay, not introducing chemicals if ever possible. So what can we do? We can test our animals for heartworm disease, right? There are tests that your veterinarian can provide. It's a simple snap test that they do in-house, and they only need a little bit of blood. It's like a drop or two of blood. I've done many, many of them, and they're quite accurate. So it's really simple. You would want to test if you live in a northern state where you don't have, 24/7, 57 degrees or higher for 2 weeks straight. So if you live in states where it's warmer, so like Arkansas and Florida and Georgia could have more of a problem with that. Those southern states, anywhere down there, Texas especially, New Mexico, that's where we're going to see a lot more prevalence of heartworm disease. In the south, where there's water, well, New Mexico, it's not even as bad because of the water. It's very dry and desert there. I suspect it's not as super bad. I'm sure there's some problems in California, Andy, but I know like Arkansas and Mississippi and Georgia and Florida, they really have to be diligent about that because it's warm, pretty often, and so they have to test. Yeah, year long. Okay. So what we do, Florida, it could be a problem. In fact, the only dogs that I've seen here in Pennsylvania, and I've seen a lot of dogs, a lot of rescue dogs, the only time we got heartworm positive dogs at the veterinarian or at the animal shelter was dogs that were rescued from the South. It wasn't dogs that had been in Pennsylvania all their life. It had been dogs that were brought up from other states, even Tennessee, South Carolina, and Arkansas. I mean, we've gotten a bunch. And so we did have a lot of occurrences there. But we didn't have the problem of them spreading it because it was so rare and so difficult to spread it when you have temperatures like we do in Pennsylvania. So that's the good news there. It doesn't mean it's impossible, just that it's extremely rare to see a dog that's been raised in PA or in Maine to actually get heartworm disease, okay? But usually they are brought up from the South and they already have it, and it can lay dormant in their body for quite a while. All right, so what you want to do is test your dogs. If you don't want to do the monthly pesticide, and I'm one of those, even as a vet tech, when I was, recommending to people because I had to, that was part of my job. I was told that I must do that. Or I was going to be in trouble. It was part of our protocol. We must tell all clients that they have to be on heartworm preventative and be tested once or twice a year. And I didn't even agree with that procedure. I didn't see why we were giving our dogs pesticides every month, putting it on topically and internally. It just felt like I was poisoning my pets. And it didn't sit well with me, but yet I was told I had to recommend it. So I will say that even though a lot of us veterinary technicians, we're told we have to say this, and I'm sure there's veterinarians out there that they feel like they're doing the right thing. Oftentimes we have that gut instinct, right? I can't speak for everybody. I can just say for me, even though I was very gung-ho in the past on using pharmaceuticals and using these products, we can have a change of heart because sometimes we instinctually know that this does not feel right and we see animals not doing well on it. So, you have to do what you feel is best for your pet. So I'm not going to say you can't do this or you can't do that. I'm just letting you know that there's other options, and I will support you in those options, right, if you need more help with that. So testing twice a year is really helpful. So if you know that the life cycle of a heartworm is 6 months, and you have 4 months of winter like we do in Pennsylvania, then it would probably be good to test in early May, and then test again with say May to June to July to August to September. I'd probably test in September and give it 4 months, right? And just to be sure. And then twice a year testing. And that way you don't have to give the monthly pesticide. But if you are in the South, it would be a good idea to test more frequently, probably 3 or 4 times a year. And if you didn't want to do that, you maybe would want to test twice a year, and then, talk to your vet about some natural, if there's a natural alternative. There's a lot of holistic veterinarians. I found that we have one just down the road here in Mechanicsburg, which is only about 30 minutes from me. So I'm excited. I want to stop in and talk to them. And what our holistic veterinarians do, they do have tinctures and herbs that are really good at killing off microfilariae in the bloodstream without harming your pet. Okay, they use herbal remedies such as black seed, hops flowers, apricot kernel, hawthorn berries, garlic, sheep sorrel, and grapefruit seed extract. And I know what some of you might be thinking, oh, I heard garlic's bad for pets. I heard these. It's all about the dose. So there's therapeutic doses, and then there's toxic doses of just about anything, right? So even water, okay? So that's what this is all about, is giving a therapeutic dose. However, much safer, and it doesn't have the neurologic side effects as we are seeing with a lot of our pesticides that we're giving our pets. It even says on the packages that they can cause neurological damage. And so it's basically like a ticking time bomb, when we're giving them these chemical pesticides that their body could very well reject. And, it's just not fun to see. So I wanted to let you guys know that there is some other options there. Okay. Another thing that we can do to naturally keep fleas and ticks off of our pets, because that's a really important topic. I do have videos. If you check in the video section on this Facebook page, you can see that I had, just look through the titles. I went through in depth. I did a suggestion a day for a week straight on flea and tick preventatives. So I talked about everything from apple cider vinegar rinses and sprays to essential oils, diatomaceous earth, treating the lawn with nematodes. There's just so many alternatives that we can do to keep fleas off our pets. And I can tell you with my Buddha kitty, he's inside all the time. He doesn't have fleas. I use oils on him occasionally. I would say about every 2 weeks I do his skin recipe to keep his skin, because he gets flaky in the winter. And during the summer, because we're in and out of the house, and we could very well be bringing fleas and ticks on our clothes, or if you work with animals, when I worked at a veterinary hospital, I was getting ticks and fleas on my clothes. I would go home, try to change real quick, but pets, they're going to pick them up from us sometimes, just carrying them in on our shoes or on our clothes, okay? With Buddha, I would use some TerraShield on him about once a week, and no fleas. It's been many years since he's ever had a topical treatment. I think is maybe back when he was a kitten. So he's 19 now. We don't have fleas. And the health of the pet is really important for that too. So Juve is watching. Hi, Juve. Thank you. Thanks, Andy. I hope that helps you guys a bit. And so some oils. I want to give you guys some oils to help you pick which oils are best at repelling. If you have some major tick problems in your yard, you want to use lemongrass. That's one of my favorite repellents. It's safe for both dogs and cats. Make sure you heavily dilute it. You only need about 10 drops in a 2 milliliter spray bottle if you're using that, and then top it off with water and fractionated coconut oil. Geranium's also a great natural repellent. Peppermint for dogs is a great repellent. The TerraShield blend, the Arbor Vitae. A lot of these oils are amazing repellents. Cedarwood and lavender are two of my favorites that are super gentle, calming, which we all love, and great for your pet's bedding, dogs or cats. We just dilute it, spray it on, or you can put a couple drops underneath their bedding, and you'll see that it's a great natural repellent. The key is that we, as the pet parents, we're diligent about keeping up with it, because it's not as easy as the monthly spot on, right? You do the monthly spot on, you forget about it. However, when I did that with my dogs, they were picking up fleas every 3 weeks. So I had actually put it on them more frequently. which was more toxic. And so now I know better. Now I know all the tricks. With my senior dog, I was using oils about 2 years before she had passed on. She was 19 when she passed. And I did not use flea topical stuff on her the last few years of her life. I used all natural. It worked amazing, amazing. So I know that it's doable. I know that it works. And it'll cost you a lot less money for sure. And just make sure you're using pure oils. Another thing you can do in your yard, if your pets are primarily at home and in your yard and you're not taking them out and about too much, you can put diatomaceous earth on your lawn. You don't want to do it when it's wet or like it's about to rain that day, because you want it to kind of sit in the yard a little bit, and for the insects to ingest it and walk around in it, and that'll help. But it's completely safe and non-toxic to our pets. It's completely safe and non-toxic to us. In fact, food grade diatomaceous earth is actually good for us to ingest. It's anti-parasitic, and it helps to kill parasites in our gut. So you can actually feed it to your dogs as well. So that's a great natural dewormer. So the Terra Shield in the spray bottle is okay to use on a dog without diluting it. Actually, you can, but what I do, Wendy, and I would do this for bigger dogs, is I spray it on my hands first, and then I rub it on them. Okay, so instead of just spraying it all over them, because you're going to use a lot if you do it that way, especially if you have a large dog, I do it on my hands, and then I rub around their ears and their neck and chest and legs, and just do it that way. So you can still dilute that even further, Wendy, and get a lot more out of it. Okay, just saying. And what I do is I make my 4-ounce spray bottle. I do my recipe with the Terra Shield, the lemongrass, peppermint, and arborvitae. I take it with me. So if we go hiking, we go to a dog park, this is what I did with my dogs. You're welcome. Oh, 60 pounds. Perfect. So make up a big spray bottle. If you're doing an 8-ounce spray bottle, just double that recipe. Okay, you'll have it ready to go. And what's cool about that recipe is it's good for you too. So you can spray it on yourself as a natural repellent and spray it on your dog when you guys go for walks, go hiking, go out to the dog park, and just bring it with you. So it usually lasts around 4 hours, which is pretty decent. But if it seems like the mosquitoes are really bad that day, or it's a heavily wooded, ticky area, I just keep stuff with me and I go by what I'm feeling like. If I think a bug got a little too close to me, then I'll spray myself and I spray my family down again. And that might be like an hour after we start hiking. So we do love to hike. And since we started using oils, not one tick on us. Before that, my husband was bringing home ticks. He was a tick magnet, literally a tick magnet, more so than my dog. My daughter used to get ticks in her ears before I started using oils, so this has been really awesome to have as a tool. Does diatomaceous help with the treatment of heartworm positive dogs showing no symptoms? Well, it is a treatment for internal parasites. I don't know that it works for heartworm. I haven't read any articles about that or seen any research on that, but I'll have to look. I haven't looked specifically for that, but I would definitely go with a holistic vet if your dog has heartworm. If your dog has heartworm, I would definitely check into a holistic vet who has experience with treating that. Okay, because it is a scary thing, and I know that ivermectin is quite an interesting treatment because it's very, very toxic. It's actually only approved in cattle, and they use it off-label in dogs to treat heartworm. Yo, good, no ticks since you started using oils. Yay, Yanetta! All right, so yeah, work with your holistic vet, because if you go with the traditional route, they're going to do the ivermectin. Your dog has to stay extremely still in a crate for like weeks. This is very challenging, and it's super, super toxic. But they do have natural remedies to help with the die-off of the worms. So, and you have, again, it has to be slow, and you have to be real careful in watching your dog. So I hope that helps. But that's why I put the list, the search. There's like a search thing you can click on, and find a holistic veterinarian in your area. When I discovered that website, I was like, woohoo, I love it. That's super helpful. So they have, a lot of them are offering all kinds of neat treatments like laser therapy for arthritis and acupuncture, all kinds of cool therapies. You're welcome, Lori. Well, thank you, everybody. Thanks for hopping on. I hope this helps. If you have anybody who's asking questions about natural remedies to keep fleas and ticks, this is kind of just a quick overview. I wanted you to understand the life cycle of heartworm, so it's not as scary as what you think. All these different things have to come into play, and they usually come into play in the southern states. Okay, so if you're living in the northern states like I am, it's not as big of a concern, but yet we are told by our vets to give that monthly preventative. And actually those preventatives shouldn't be once a month. Even the way they're prescribing them, I have no idea why they're saying once a month. It should be every other month, at the most. So it doesn't make sense that we're giving it every month. And you know what I heard as excuses as to why we're telling owners every month is because they will remember it. Otherwise, they will forget. And I say, well, they could forget the once a month treatment. And so a lot of pharmaceutical companies came out with these magnets. In fact, I had gotten one when I was a technician. They handed them out. And it was that reminder to put on that monthly spot on, or to give that pesticide treat to your dog. I mean, seriously. We just need to think about what we're doing, and is that really doing no harm to our animals? Because from what I'm seeing, the risk outweighs the benefit in that case. So if there's other ways that we can do that, you're welcome, Andy. If there's other ways that we can protect our pets, we really should be looking at those other ways, so that we can do less harm and keep them safe and keep them healthy. And not be giving them pesticides every month. So that's my view on it. That's my take. But if that's something that, and I have friends that they're just very, very worried about their area, they have a high incident of heartworm disease, they have all these problems with parvo and distemper and all of that, and so they're just scared. There's a lot of fear going on. But I can tell you, all of these things are treatable. All of these things are preventable, but by natural means. So work with a holistic veterinarian if you want to go that route, and good luck. And I'm here to support you guys in this journey of taking a more natural approach to your pet care. So have a great Sunday. I was happy I had time to get on. So hopefully I can get on later in the week and talk about some more topics, more questions that I get all the time. So take care, everybody. Bye.